Hi, good evening. It's Monday night, the beginning of week 7, and tonight I'm going to briefly talk to you about the analysis of the advertisement. It's an individual project that we each have to do, selecting one advertisement. It can be from a magazine, from a newspaper, from a website, not a video, not something complicated, just one page of advertising with text or with visual pictures, whatnot, but we have to keep it simple. We can't analyze a video because that would be too complicated. What we're doing in this project is we're doing an extremely close reading of all the details and all of the elements that go into comprising a particular advertisement, because what that advertisement wants to do, and this is a way to help us learn about marketing, the goal of the advertisement is to get us to see a certain reality, to accept it as being real and basically truthful, and to take action accordingly. That's what the brand would like. And so we can think about, for example, Coca-Cola, right, or Brooklyn College. You can take any institution or brand, and each of them has goals. Each of them has a certain kind of objective that it wants to communicate. Brooklyn College wants more students or wants a certain type of student. Coca-Cola wants more people to drink its product. And in order to do those things, in order to get a bigger, better audience, what the brand or the institution has to do is it has to convey something effectively about itself, so that it's not enough just to know that Brooklyn College teaches classes, because Hunter does that, Pace does it, Princeton does it, lots of, thousands of institutions do that, so that's not so different. And there's lots of drinks. There's RC, or there's Dr. Pepper, or there's ginger ale, or there's 7-Up. So that's it exists within a universe of other choices in terms of cola or beverages or soda beverages. So the question is, what else can Coca-Cola offer that can make us identify with it? And so what Coca-Cola does, what Brooklyn College does, is that they want to create what we can call a mythology. And so I gave you that reading on Blackboard. You can go to under readings, and it's written by a philosopher, Roland Barthes. It's an excerpt from his book, which talks about this concept of the mythology. And in the book, he's not talking about marketing. He's talking more about society and how every culture has mythologies or creates there are national identities, for instance. And the article I gave you, it's not that easy to read. It's a little bit, it requires some careful attention, but he presents, he's French, and he presents a little chapter where he writes about steak and fries. And this is a dish that's a typically French dish. For every French person, as he explains, sees that as a kind of normal thing to eat, and it's as normal as it is for the French drinking wine. It's something that's part of their cultural identity to have this kind of food. And he mentions that when you come back to France, you've been away from France for a long time, for instance, you come back and you have this steak and fries, you feel very much that you're in France, you're French. There's a kind of connotation of being immersed now as you're eating this in the French culture, right? And we can think about other cultures having a national dish or having a kind of food that's particularly identified with that culture. And that if somebody prepares that dish for you, for example, and you've been away from your country of origin, or let's say you come from a Syrian or you come from Mexican background, and somebody prepares you a dish that your grandmother used to prepare at home, now all of a sudden you feel a sort of special connection to that person because that's something in your culture that's meaningful to you. So he talks about that in relation to the French. And obviously, steak and fries can exist in many cultures, but it has a particular meaning to the French that it doesn't have in another context. And it's prepared in a particular way, and it's served in a particular way. So that concept of mythology, now if we think again the example of Brooklyn College or Coca-Cola, he's not talking about brands, he's talking about culture. But brands also want to be something, they would like to convey to a person something, that they're more important than just the product that they produce. So Coca-Cola wants to be more than just about soda. And so Brooklyn College wants to say that we're something different, or we provide education, yes, but we provide it in a different way than other institutions. And we have, for example, one of the things, if you wanted to look at, well, what does Brooklyn, what kind of props, what types of images, what types of elements does Brooklyn College extract and bring into its arsenal of 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 objects that it presents to say this is who we are. If you wanted to deconstruct and you wanted to look at all those elements, what you might do is you'd go to the website, you would go to an open house that Brooklyn College is giving for new students, and you would look at brochures, and you would look at, the buildings, how the buildings are constructed, and all of those elements together would give you an indication of who they see, how they see themselves, and what kinds of values and what kind of an orientation that institution has. So for example, to switch over now to Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola wants to be very youthful. It wants to be seen as a brand that's very popular, very innovative, right? It's not like a luxury brand that it's for everybody, right? So it doesn't want to be exclusive and elitist. No. It wants to embrace more popular culture, music and celebrities that everybody knows and likes, or that many people, or the majority of people, can identify with, or the majority of young people that they might be targeting especially can identify with. And so that's the way it defines innovation and creativity and being cutting edge. Now Brooklyn College also wants to be creative and innovative and cutting edge, but for Brooklyn College it has innovation means scientific, right, research, and it means that students are winning awards. I saw, not for Brooklyn College, but for CUNY, just the other day on the train, there was a poster, and it was trying to advertise the fact that CUNY was a college or university system in which students were winning many kinds of very prestigious prizes. I think the Goldwater Prize was mentioned, and that 8 people won in the last 4 years. So this is the kind of innovation, or this is the kind of way in which CUNY or Brooklyn College would present itself. Not in relation to celebrities or music or popular culture. That's not its mission, or that's not its orientation. So that's a crucial aspect in this topic that we're thinking about of semiotics, that the concept innovation or the concept creativity or the idea of being cutting edge means very different things. It has no inherent and it has no fixed meaning. So that Brooklyn College can use the idea, Louis Vuitton can use the idea, and so can Coca-Cola, but they can spin it, or they can present it in very, very different ways. So under the optional readings in Blackboard, I posted an article for those of you who might be a little more interested in going deeper with this, and I have an article that's using this concept of mythology but applying it to fashion firms. And so I did an analysis of Tommy Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren, and American Apparel. And each of these firms draws upon a kind of American identity. They each see themselves as embodying American, particularly American values. And while they all talk about freedom and they all talk about democracy, they all have a very, very different definition. So this is how, this concept of mythology, that, for example, for American Apparel, freedom has to do with being very libertarian, and it has a very, very different connotation than it does for Ralph Lauren, where when you see Ralph Lauren's website, or you see the advertisements, or you see the clothing itself, there is that idea of the English WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant type of customer or ideal image that's being conveyed, whereas American Apparel, it's a different type of countercultural, activist, somebody who's going against the establishment, whereas Ralph Lauren is the establishment. So we're talking about democracy, but we're defining democracy in totally different ways. So that is the idea of this mythology, that it has a storyline, it has a narrative, it has a kind of conclusion, it has plots, it has all of those elements, but different orientations, and that showing different kinds of images puts you in a different frame of mind in relation to each of those brands. And so when we think about democracy in terms of one brand, it takes us in a very different direction than it would take us when we think about it in terms of the other brand.